Hola, ¿qué tal? Good afternoon. My name is Beatriz Aguilar. I am originally from Mexico. I have been living in the United States for about 23 years, and I am in Wisconsin since about 17 years ago. I am really excited to be in this show today. We're going to learn a lot about Latino cooking and some great ideas for healthy cooking. I'm going to introduce our amazing chefs of the day. First, Estrella Chavez, could you tell us a little bit about you and your background?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Estrella. I studied biology back in my country. I'm from Mexico City. And food for me, food is part of my identity. I grew up learning cooking from my grandma. And yes, I just love food and sharing food with my friends and my family. Yeah.
Great. And then we're going to have Sujhey Beisser. Sujhey, could you talk to us about you?
Sure. So I am Sujhey Beisser, and I am originally from Venezuela, born and raised there. I moved to Madison about 20 years ago. I am a strategy and development officer at Park Bank. I am a banker by trade because that's what I went to school for, and it's what I've been doing for so many years. But cooking is a passion of mine because growing up in Latin America, just cooking was really the only way. I never had a TV dinner until I moved here. So with my passion, I started a food blog called Five Senses Palate, who has also become my personal chef business.
Great. And then we're going to have Leslie Serrano.
Hi, I'm Leslie. I'm a corporate chef. I study culinary arts in Mexico City in Universidad del Claustro de Sor Juana. I've been working in the food industry for almost about 10 years. I used to work in Mexico in the same company, and then I moved here 5 years ago. And what I try to do at my work is to push the Latin roots and try to be an inspiration for all the other chefs in my industry.
Great. Well, welcome. And I know I am looking forward to see all your recipes and learn new techniques from you. So I cannot wait to see what you have prepared for us. So we're going to start with Estrella. Estrella, if you could start showing us your dish and also tell us about it.
Oh, sure. So I just want to show you what I made because what I made was a pan de muerto. It's like bread of the dead. It's a literally translation. It's this. I don't know if you can see there. Pan de muerto. Well, the Day of the Dead in Mexico, Dia de Muertos, is a very popular tradition, popular celebration. And one thing that is very popular is the pan de muerto. Pan de muerto in Mexico is super diverse. This is the bread that you get to see in Mexico City, but all around the country, there are so many recipes and shapes and flavors. This is one of my favorites because I grew up in Mexico City, and making this bread bring back all those memories. The smell in the markets with the fresh tangerines, all the fruits of the season, the copal, that is that type of incense in Mexico. And I started making pan de muerto at home 7 years ago when I moved to the States, and it became a tradition because I used to live in Washington, D.C., and I couldn't find a pan de muerto. And for me, there's no way that there is not a Day of the Dead without a pan de muerto. So I started trying recipes, and after the third try, I get the perfect recipe, or the perfect recipe for me. And since then, I make pan de muerto at home every year, and I love sharing with my friends and with my family. Usually make it during my birthday because my birthday is close to the Day of the Dead. And but yes, it's a tradition. It's kind of a brioche, and the flavors, we have two main flavors in Mexico City. The one that I prepare is infused with it has some orange blossom essence and orange peel. So it's a very subtle and flavor and super spongy bread. I just love it. And the other combination is like the one with anise seeds and vanilla, and it's topped with sesame seeds. That's also very good, but I think the orange blossom with the orange peel is my favorite.
Nice.
I'm super excited to see how you prepare it, because I have to tell you, when I live in Texas 7 years, and I really miss pan de muerto. So I tried once, and I ended up with a huge cookie.
Well, I think one of very important thing is you need to get a very fresh yeast. The yeast has an expiration date. It's a living thing, you know. If you need to make sure you are using a fresh yeast. And the way to know that's still alive is when you put it with, you prepared your masa madre. How do you call it, Nancy? And Leslie, in English, I don't remember.
Mother dough?
No.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think here they call it a sponge.
It's a sponge, because in this one is not masa madre.
This is sponge. When you mix the yeast with some milk, it has to be not cold, not hot, but lukewarm. Lukewarm, I think, is the term. And you mix it with some flour and a little bit of sugar and the yeast. And the way to know that yeast is still alive, it will start making bubbles. You start consuming all the sugar and producing CO2. And then, yes, I don't know why you got that cookie, but maybe it was the yeast.
So are you going to take us through the steps?
No, it will take hours to get. Unfortunately, no, we have just 1 hour, and it takes like
Or any secret, so no one else ends up with a cookie like I did.
Well, first take care of the yeast. Get a good yeast. What else? Okay. Another secret, but something that I found that I think is very important. You need to knead the dough very well. At the beginning, it's super wet. The first time I made it, I was, oh my gosh, I think I messed up. Something, I didn't measure the ingredients very well. It was super wet and sticky. But it's one of the things I love about baking and making this type of bread. And you really get to see how the matter change. And you need to get this from a sticky and really wet dough, you need to get to this very shiny and elastic texture. And then you need to let it rest for an hour or an hour and a half until it doubles the size. And then you shape the dough. That's the most funny part. Like, now I make it every year with my husband to knead the dough. And then shaping the bread is the most funny part, because you stay making the balls and then the buns. And, well, in theory, these little shapes, they're supposed to be like buns, and they're supposed to be like a skull, representing like a, yeah.
Now, if some people love the Mexican sweet bread. What would you say is the key ingredient that makes pan de muerto taste so unique and is not similar to, let's say, a concha or any other sweet bread?
So I think it's the orange blossom and the orange peel. It's a very peculiar flavor. And in some Mexico City, they use butter. In some places, they use lard. I don't know if for the pan de muerto, but for some Mexican sweet pastry, they use lard.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sujhey, could you please introduce your dish?
Of course. I gotta get back here to get it. So what I made today, I hope you can see it here, but it's called Cachapa, and it is kind of like a pancake. It's made with corn, and this is a very traditional dish in Venezuela. So obviously, because corn has been cultivated in America for thousands and thousands of years. So like the diet or, the traditional foods in Venezuela are based with corn flour. Like arepa is made out with corn flour. Cachapa is made out by grinding the actual corn kernels and mixing them with milk. Some people put eggs. I actually do put eggs because I feel like if I don't put eggs in it, then it doesn't bind together and it becomes a mess. But a lot of people don't put eggs in it. And to me, I I've always eaten cachapa, but when I was about 18 years old, a friend of mine invited me to her hometown for the weekend. And she happened to live about, I don't know, we took a bus. It was probably about 5-6 hour ride. But that's the part of the country, is like central part of the country where actually corn grows. And one of the first things we did when we got there on Friday night, her dad was like, oh, we're going to the cornfield. So we jumped in a truck and he took us to the cornfield. To me, that was the first time being in a cornfield. And we, of course, got all the scratches from all the corn and all the stuff, but we got a lot of corn back home. And that whole weekend I spent at her house with her family. We ate cachapas literally for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But every single time they were like a complete different presentation of it. So this way, it's usually served with cheese, and it's called queso de mano, which is a cheese made by hand. So mozzarella is the closest thing that you can find here. And then cochino frito or fried pork, it's like a very typical combination that you put with cachapa. So that's what I did today.
Can you show it again a little bit higher? I am getting the okay.
I don't know if you can see it there.
Yeah. So you shape it like
so this is the cachapa right here. It's kind of like a corn cake, and then the cheese, I put the cheese in between. This is not like a very traditional presentation, but since we're talking about food and art, I wanted to, plate it a little different.
So you make a circle and cut it so it has the shape of triangles.
Yeah, it's just like a pancake, and it's usually just served, you put the cheese in the middle and you fold it so it kind of looks like an empanada.
That looks delicious.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Leslie, could you talk to us about your dish?
So mine is my creation. The name is Xochiquetzal, because Xochiquetzal is really difficult to pronounce if your first language is not Spanish and if you are not from Mexico. But it was like a god name. The flowers and the arts. So for me, it was the perfect name for my dessert. And get ready, I want to warn you, because the way that I cook, and mainly desserts, tend to be very, very, very complex. So here's my beautiful Xochiquetzal.
Wow.
Xochiquetzal has different components that I want to explain for all of you. The first one, as you know, and Belen explained in the beginning, Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead, is a very important festivity for the Mexican culture. And I tried to represent Xochiquetzal with this beautiful ruby chocolate skull. The teeth are like a gangster style because they are with edible gold, and the eyes too. I decorate with my handmade decoration around this with sugar. And all of these are marzipans, because if you visit the streets in my country, you will see a lot of vendors selling marzipans with shapes of fruits or flowers. Mm-hmm. So I try to represent Xochiquetzal with these beautiful marzipan flowers. And inside I have a delicious pepita cake, pumpkin seed. So the last part of this dessert, the idea is I have these tres leches that I made, that I have dulce de leche, that is cajeta in Mexico, heavy cream, and rompope. The rompope is like, what's the name of the Christmas one? Eggnog.
Eggnog.
With alcohol. So the idea is that when you will eat this beautiful Xochiquetzal, you will pour your hot tres leches on top, and you will melt the beautiful skull on top of the cake, and then you will have a delicious chocolate tres leches, and then start to melt. And you will have a delicious sauce between the chocolate and the tres leches. So that was my representation of everything. It has many recipes.
That's amazing.
A pepita sponge cake, a whipped cream made with Mexican vanilla from Veracruz, the skull, that is ruby chocolate, that is the newest cocoa bean. There is a company that makes chocolate around the world, really important, that they are combining a different cooking methods for make that the chocolate looks pink. So it's super trendy right now. That's why I try to use ruby chocolate. Gold, because I just love to add edible gold to all my desserts because it my personality. And I really think that the marzipan is a perfect texture to combine with the crunchy part of the sponge cake, the nutty flavor, and the delicious sauce.
It looks almost sad to melt it. It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
What is the ingredient, the main ingredient of the marzipan for those who don't know this?
So my marzipan is super simple and the flavor is amazing though, because it's really similar to jamoncillo, that the people that we are from Mexico, jamoncillo is a combination between pepita flour and other ingredients that makes a beautiful type of paste, soft candy, Mexican candy. My marzipan is made with almond flour and condensed milk. I only play with the balance for don't make it too gummy because of the condensed milk, but that's it. That's everything that you need. More almond flour than condensed milk. Mix it, let it rest in the fridge, and then you have something almost like a Play-Doh. Very easy.
Oh, that's great. I feel that we should have agree on meeting afterwards so we can try all the dishes. I would love to try that. I'm sure everyone is loving to try this. This is really great. One of the things that I have experienced in Wisconsin, coming from Mexico City, is how the seasons are very marked. Where in Mexico City we don't have a fall where all the leaves fall and turn orange and all that. Do you notice in your places of origin, did the food change according to the seasons?
Yeah. So, for example, in my opinion, in Mexico, we have seasonal things. Like the first one that comes to my mind is Christmas time, that we have a lot of mandarina, we have caña, tejocote, all the things that we use, because in Mexico we break the piñatas with fruits inside. In America, it's pretty common in US that people stuff the piñatas with candies, but in Mexico, that's not normal. For us, we have peanuts, we have fruits, and that's why you need to be pretty smart in the way that you break the piñata, or you will make a puree of fruits. But really, food is super seasonal in our country. Right now, we just passed chile en nogada. The chile en nogada is one of the fanciest dishes for our culture because it's the type of nut that we have in nogada. It was the season a couple of weeks ago. Right now, we are in pan de muerto because just start to blossom the orange blossom. So we really go in our beautiful and complex dishes per season.
I grew up when piñatas were made with clay.
Yeah.
The fruit wasn't that.
All of us finish with chichon.
And you will break it sometimes with your head. It did happen to me more than once. But you will have oranges and sugar cane and peanuts and all those kinds of fruits. Tejocotes, which you cannot find very easily here other than frozen. How did you fall in love with cooking?
Do you want to go, Sujhey?
Oh, sure. I don't specifically remember, one time where I thought, oh my gosh, this is what I love to do, because I grew up watching my grandma or my mom or my aunts in the kitchen all the time. So to me, it was just like, I started cooking when I was, I think maybe 12 years old, because I was the oldest of 3 kids and my mom was working, and, my siblings were hungry. I had to prepare something. And I guess my grandma also said, until you knew how to make rice and fried eggs, you couldn't get married. Like that was, you had to learn how to cook. And it was never an option not to cook when we were around my grandma, because every time she was in the kitchen, she would give you a job. She's like, here, peel these onions, here, peel this garlic, here, do this. The one thing in Venezuela that it's very traditional, just kind of like in Mexico, for you guys to make tamales is for us to make what we call hallacas, which might be the Venezuelan version of tamales, and we only make them for Christmas time. So it's a very holiday meal, and the entire family gets together and cooks together, because obviously it's a job that takes hours. It's made with corn flour and filled with pork and chicken and beef, and then it's wrapped in banana leaves and cooked for hours, obviously, until everything is cooked. So ever since I could remember, since I was, I don't know, 5 years old, I had my specific job to make hallacas every year. So it's kind of like something that you grew up with, and not necessarily that, you think anything of it. It's just the way to do it, right? Just to cook your food, otherwise you don't eat.
Yeah.
Yes, I think for me it's kind of the same way, because I grew up in a family, like I grew up with my grandma, and I have so many uncles and aunties, and I was always helping in the kitchen. And the first time I really started cooking was when I was 10 years old, and I made the first thing I cooked, I think, was a Mexicana. Like, we will call them Mexican omelets, just because they have the three colors of the flag, like Mexican flag, like tomatoes, peppers, and onions. And as Sujhey mentioned, like, my family is the same with tradition, always cooking something different, and always helping cleaning up the beans or cutting some veggies. And then I think I just grew up with that, learning to cook. And it's more when I was more independent and eating out of my house, when I started sharing with my friends, and also changing recipes or techniques, and then your kitchen started evolving, and you earn my way personally. Like, I love sharing meals with friends and for everybody. And then one of my best friend, I think you cook about with you. And a lot of the things I used to do was Mexican food, but then one of my best friends is Japanese, and I learned a couple of Japanese techniques. Here in Madison, I was working in a Mediterranean cafe, and I learned a lot of other techniques from different countries, and I've been incorporating them in my kitchen. This summer, I was experimenting a lot with guacamole. It's a very traditional Mexican herb in Mexico. We do the flowers, little flowers. I was trying to put it in different recipes, not just the classical Mexican recipe that I learned. And well, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And me. I'm going to be pretty fast, I promise. For me, I really feel that again, I'm going to say, it's similar to Estrella, but it's the reality, and she and I are pretty close friends, so maybe that's why. For me, it's coming from my mother. I really think I cook and the way that I am is coming from her. Even my apron today, can you see how beautiful it is? My mother made it for me. So I really think that my connection with the Mexican food and my passion about it is coming from her. Like, when I was younger and I was living with them, sometimes my mother got ill, like with a flu or something. And for me, instead of being, oh, poor my mama, I was super excited, because for me it was like, yes, finally I can cook for all my family. And that was my way to show food and show that food is related to our emotions.
Yeah, I teach music in Edgewood College, and when you teach music, there is a strong connection with music and culture, and there is certain style of music that is very representative of a culture, of a historical period, and then you make the connection with visual arts, for example, and it's everything very, very connected, and the result of things that happen historically in a given culture. But I'm convinced that that's the same with food. Food is part of a culture and is very characteristic. It talks a lot about who we are. Do you feel that there is a big contrast between how food is used in our countries in Latin America and what you are finding here in the United States?
Belen, do you want to start?
Yes. So, as Sujhey mentioned before, like, corn was domesticated in America, right? Latin America. There are more than 220 races of corn. In Mexico, there are 64 races. Like, everything is around food, around corn. Tamales. In Mexico, there are more than 600 recipes made out of corn, and that includes like today's dishes as well as drinks, alcoholic beverage or regular drinks. So it's amazing. Everything is about corn. Luckily, we can find corn here in Madison, but
not the white one, though.
No, that's the thing. It's very
the yellow one that for us is the one that we use for porks, but here the American thinks that one, the one that we like, is for feed pork. So
that's correct. That's correct. And that's one thing we always talking about food, you know. You find a Mexican or any other person from Latin America, we have this, it's very similar, but we don't, you do it like this way or whatever. And I was talking just with a friend, like, you know, it's very interesting because in Mexico, when you go visiting, I don't know, from a weekend, 2 hours away from Mexico City, you go to any single little town, has a different flavor. The tortillas are not the same. And it's like, oh my gosh, tortillas are so good. It's because the flavors of the soil, they are different. Where they burn, how they work, the temperature, humidity, everything around it, the minerals in the soil. And also that there are so many varieties, you know? And here, yes, we have one or two, I don't know, I'm not sure how many crowns we have, but it's a little bit hard because Mexico, especially living in Mexico City, we have products from all over the country, and it's hard to adjust just to a couple.
Like for me, that is another story because I work in the food industry. I can tell you that when I moved from Mexico to US, I was trying to replicate the Mexican cuisine exactly in the way that we consume the Mexican cuisine in Mexico and for Mexicans. And I was noticing that a lot of the flavors were not mainstream friendly, if that's a correct way to say it, because some flavors were too complex. Like a clear, simple example is mole that has thousands of different spices, chilies, and seeds. Sometimes were too strong for some of the consumers. So in my job, that what I do is to replicate the flavors in a big, super big scale. What I try to do now is to customize our flavors without lose the essence of what they are, to a way that everyone will feel happy and satisfied. They will feel the connection with the food, but the flavors will have a little bit of the tweaks, because that's what I need to do here. Like, we are pretty lucky that in United States, we can find almost every single ingredient from Mexico. Like my friend that is watching us, she's in Netherlands. For her, it's super difficult to get the Mexican ingredients. She needs to buy them online. And for us, we have a lot of ethnic stores in America. Mm-hmm. We can get a lot of ingredients or pretty similar to those.
Mm-hmm. And for me, it was a big shock when I moved here because like I said, I was used to always having homemade meals. And there was a lot of food here that I didn't know what it was. In fact, Mexican food was not a type of food that I was used to eating, because when I moved here, I was 24, 25, and I had only eaten at a Mexican restaurant twice in Caracas. I didn't grow up in a family that could afford to go out to eat. So eating at home was the norm. The first time I ever had McDonald's was because I was already working and I could afford it to go by myself. So I think I was probably 18 or 19 the first time I had McDonald's. So it wasn't, like that wasn't the way that I grew up and I was raised. So when I moved here, it took me a while, to be honest, to find that connection. First, the ingredients. 20 years ago, it wasn't as easy to find a plantain at the grocery store like it is today. Avocados were everywhere, but there were certain ingredients that I couldn't find easily, which now, some things have changed, which is great. But it took me a while to kind of find that connection with, Wisconsin grows a lot of food here. And I didn't even know there was a farmer's market that I could go to. So to me, it was like in the summer when I saw those little food stands on the road in places, like I always wanted to stop there and just try to get as many fruits or vegetables, because that reminded me, at home, anywhere that you drive, you can find those little stands. But once I found that connection with the market and the growers of the food, like the CSA, the customer supported agriculture, to me was like an eye-opening. It's like, oh my gosh, I can, I can just buy this ahead of time, and then for the entire summer, I'm gonna get a box of vegetables that is in season every week. So that kind of changed also the way I started cooking. That's probably been almost a decade since I started buying CSAs. But, that kind of made me cook in season because I feel like at least in Venezuela, you have tomatoes all year round. You don't have to worry about there's a time when we won't have fresh tomatoes, or they have to be shipped from whatever many miles away. So, like canning and preserving the flavors of the summer, that was something that I was not used to doing until I started realizing, obviously it's very different here. The winter is very, very harsh. I try to grow my own herbs. We grow some tomatoes in the summer, and I try to find as many ways as possible to sort of preserve some of those flavors, because it makes me really sad that I have to pay, like $5 for mint in the winter when, I have so much mint right now in my garden. So it did take me a while to get there, but I've adapted, obviously, and I've learned to use a lot of different ingredients that I didn't know back home. The way that squash is used here, like in Venezuela, I probably knew 2 kinds of squash, and that, the pumpkin is the big one, and the spaghetti squash. But I didn't really know there were so many different kinds and all the different things you can make with them. So fall is definitely one of my favorites because I do love squash. So I still try to replicate some of my own traditional flavors and flavors that I've learned along the way, and just try to make things, give it my own twist, or, mi propia sazón. But it's what it, we live here now, so you have to adapt.
Can I add something? Like, now that Sujhey mentioned about adapting to Wisconsin, that's true. In our countries, like, we have all year round, we have fresh products. And here, because of the hard winter, one of the things I have learned about it is new preservation techniques, like pickled veggies, pickled onion, pickled stuff like that, or even the herbs, because you have to get them all the year round, right? Now what I do, I freeze them. It takes some time, buying them, cleaning them, put it in the cubes, ice cubes, but it's totally worth it, because during the winter, you get a nice hot soup, and the flavor changes a lot if you add some herbs, right? So I think it's one of the things I have learned about living here. And as you said, the squash, we don't have that many pumpkins in Mexico. We have a couple, but not as many as here. And what is one of the things I've been learning as well, how to cook them, how to make them. And also kale, for example. Kale is kind of new for me because I never had tried it before back in Mexico, and other herbs.
One of the things is, I'm not a chef, but I do like to cook super healthy because of what all of you are mentioning. We come from families that cook from scratch, and even to this day, if you look at my pantry, I almost don't have any cans. I try to cook from as fresh as possible, and to get from farmers the food that we eat, and that makes such a big difference. There are some studies that have been done in, for example, kids learning and behavior, and let alone health, that is so much better when you feed them this way. How do you do it to keep it with your kids, to keep this type of healthy type of eating when they are surrounded by people who are not used to this?
I don't have kids.
I don't have kids neither. We start to try healthy, and it's a very interesting question, because the first time I moved to the States, back in Washington, D.C., I think every time my husband got lunch to his office, it was everybody else, because everybody else was looking at him and asking him, "What did you bring today for lunch?" Because one of his co-workers, for example, he used to bring just a peanut butter sandwich every day, the same thing. And for me, it's really weird. I don't see myself eating over every day.
We are leftovers.
Yeah.
Like, I see this pretty clear at my work. The ladies that clean the office, they are Mexicans. And every time that I pass in lunchtime close it to the microwave, I smell salsita verde, arroz, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can smell Mexican homemade food. And I look around, and are the ladies reheating their food. And it's true, the Mexican loves to eat. For us, the comida is almost like a lunchtime, a little bit late, but we are trying to preserve those traditions of it from scratch as healthy as we can, and in the times that we used to eat in Mexico.
Yeah. What about you, Sujhey? You have kids, right?
I do. I mean, my kids are sort of spoiled when it comes to food because I cook so much, and I, like they know a lot of good food. They do like fresh stuff, but they also like junk. I mean, let's be honest. They get it, everywhere, and they love it. But they're not picky. I think the older they get now, the pickier they are getting because they're like, oh, I don't like this anymore. But since they were little, I pushed, everything that I eat. I never made, and I still don't ever make anything different for anybody. I make one meal because that's the way I learn. I make one meal. You either like it or you don't, and if you don't, then you're gonna go hungry. So they grew up eating everything from fish to they love seafood, which is weird because here in Wisconsin, there is no such thing as fresh seafood. But since they were little, I always, every time I could cook seafood, I did, and so they like it. And when we go to restaurants, I have to warn my son and say, like, don't order the most expensive thing in the menu. Just because I cook it at home doesn't mean you can always have it at the restaurants. But they like everything. They really do. And my daughter likes cooking. My son doesn't make it to the kitchen a lot, only to make ramen on his own for lunch, which I'm totally fine with. But yeah, it's different for sure. It's different than how I grew up.
For me, I have a son, and he's now a freshman at UW. And he grew up eating, I made fresh juice every morning for him from natural fruits and fresh breakfast. And then I will send lunch from home to the school. And then when he came home, there was, fresh made food. And it was not until he got to high school that he started complaining that bringing lunch from home had a social impact for him, because all his friends were going for lunch together, and because he had his food, he wouldn't go, and it will have an impact. And that makes me think on how food for us is also a family and a community thing. I don't know in your families, but a lot of the gatherings for our families end up in the kitchen, right, or at the table where you finish eating. And for example, in a restaurant, one thing that strikes me in Wisconsin is you go to a restaurant and you are eating and they bring the bill. And to me, at the beginning, it was a shock, because you go, you eat, and you can be for 3 hours at the table, because it's not about filling your stomach. It's about the social community aspect.
And for example, for me, that a part of my family here is American. It's like they finish to eat and it's straightforward. Let's clean dishes. And for me, it's like the Mexican loves sobremesa. We eat and we stay like chitty-chatting, drinking a little bit of tequila because we ate like piggies. And it's very cultural, that part, because here they are only go, go, go. They don't enjoy that beautiful thing of do nothing, than only enjoy the moment. And when I was a child, my mother used to tell me all the time that in my grandma's kitchen, it was the real party, because in Mexico, the food is so complex and takes you so much time that grandma was always there, and everyone was in the kitchen with her. They're trying a little bit of the tamal, just talking and having fun. So food for the Latin culture is really the connection of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As mentioned, like it's a communal thing. We prepare food together as a whole. We eat together. Even all these festivities, like the Day of the Dead, it gathers people together. It's this, for me, it's the excuse. Okay, yes, our beloved ones that already passed away will come over and visit us. But what make it more special is all the family gathered together, preparing all the food. Not just, the bread we buy it, because to be honest, in Mexico City, there is at least one bakery in every neighborhood, and you have your favorite. We don't have to bake. But all the other places, like all the calabaza and, and moderator, we do it all together, and it's a good excuse. You talk about your problems, about you share happiness, you share sad times. And yeah, it's more a communal thing, a community thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am not used to that eating fast. So anyway, last night I had a visit from my son, a surprise visit, and it worries me that he's now eating all this dorm food and fast food and all that. But last night I prepared enmoladas, and I thought, well, I will see what happens. And he sat, and I served him two, and then he said, "Can I have two more?" And then there were two more in the dish, and he said, "Can I have one more?" And there was one left, and he's like, "Are you going to eat that?" He ended up eating like, I don't know, 7, and just enjoying them. So I think the seed is there. I think he's always going to go back to that homemade type of food that he got used to. But it's just difficult to see and to get used to that different type of, I would say, not enjoying the community time. There is so many things, creativity and so many magic things that happen when we are sharing the food and the moment after, la sobremesa, where all the magic happens. What about Venezuela?
It's the same. It's the same. We stay at the table talking forever and, drinking whatever it is that you're drinking, whether it's wine or ron or... But yeah, it's the same thing where all the conversations happen. In my house, it's just like Leslie was saying, you're done with dinner and then somebody starts making dishes. I'm like, I'm staying on the table just talking. I don't, I'll do dishes later.
And you have the cake or whatever that you have, and that's the most delicious part.
Right.
When you're eating las migajas.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or making it again.
Yeah. And that's, that's one thing too, from being here and being part of this culture. Like for years, we celebrated Thanksgiving at my husband's family because Thanksgiving is not something that I grew up celebrating and I didn't even understand it. And it wasn't only until a few years ago that I started hosting it. And then, I like to make everything from scratch, obviously. So I had to learn everything that, culturally people make and why. And so it's a big feast at our house, but it took me, I don't know, probably about 15 years to actually start, getting into the liking of that holiday, because to me, it just didn't have the meaning or, I don't watch football either. So Thanksgiving and football kind of go together. So once I started cooking, it's like fine, because then I can spend my time doing what I like, which is cooking, and then eating, and then, just talking at the table with the family and spending time together.
Yeah, I will say probably Christmas is the equivalent for me, where you will cook the turkey and all this big meal for Christmas night.
Yeah, we do Christmas Venezuelan style with the hallacas and the pork, just like all the Venezuelan traditional foods we do Christmas. I say, well, Thanksgiving is your holiday, Christmas is my holiday.
Yeah. So in my family for Christmas, the tradition was the turkey, Christmas Eve. It was a turkey. For New Year's Eve, it was romeritos y bacalao. My mom prepared really amazing romeritos y bacalao.
My mother, that she's a Christmas super duper fan, she throws the house over the window. When we are in Christmas, she makes romeritos, bacalao, pavo, pasta, apple salad, and I don't remember, pierna. So she makes all of them for 5. For only 5 in the family, because I really feel that even us, I know the way that Belen cooks. For us, it's really important to show our love to our friends and family with food. So every time that we have a little party here in Madison with our friends, Belen and I are like the mothers of all our Mexican friends, and we bring food for everyone and feed everyone. Why? Because for her and I, it was really important since Mexico with our families to feed everyone. Like, think about this. When we go and visit our families in Mexico that are like 20 or 30 people, every time that you go to a house, the first thing is, what do you want? Can I give you a little bite of something? Can I offer you a drink? That's classic always. And here sometimes in the American culture, they don't tend to do that. They give you a glass of water and that's it. And that's not wrong. It's part of their culture. But the Mexican always try to feed people for show your love.
And you almost feel offended if they don't accept your food when you are offering them something.
That's correct. It might sound like an insult, but actually it's hard during Christmas or any other celebration, Day of the Dead, because every household prepare a lot of food. And every place you go, sometimes in Christmas, because everybody's on vacations and you go and visit friends and you know the mom of your friend and you go and visit her, they want you to eat because they have food, special food. And you go to, if one day you go to different places, different houses, you have to eat everywhere. You don't do it. It's kind of, oh, you're in my culture, you know, it's so good. I just made this once a year. And as Leslie said, my grandma, for example, he goes crazy about cooking during Christmas, but she has a lot of sons and daughters. It makes more sense. Like, she because my son likes this, so I'm gonna do seafood like for this other son, and she makes a lot of stuff, and I really feel lucky and grateful because I grew up with her, and that's the way I learned to cook. And so sometimes I think, okay, I need to calm down, take it easy, because I go crazy. When Leslie and we plan parties for our friends, oh, we're gonna make, oh, I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna do this, and we're gonna go over, you know. We just don't say, oh, one dish, two dishes. No, I have this. If I have time, I'm gonna make more, and it's interesting.
Our friends are never hungry.
No, it is, you know, and that also reminds me, you're talking about Day of the Dead. I didn't grow up with the tradition on spending 24 hours in the cemetery during Day of the Dead, but some groups do. And one day with my brother, we went to explore what happens in a cemetery in a rural area in Mexico City. And, you know, all the graves have flowers. Even my grandma, someone put flowers in her grave, who knows who. But it's so crowded, so full of flowers. And then you sit there and people bring food and they start sharing with everyone. They bring tons of food, but it's not just for their family. You share with the next door neighbor. And then the mariachi comes and the whole night people are drinking and eating as if you have met them your whole life.
Well, that happened at every single little town in Mexico City. I went to Puebla because somebody passed away. He was a brother of one of my grandma's friends. So it's a big party and celebration. They did a peregrinación. I don't know how they call it in English. It was a peregrinación. You walk around all the little town, and they have like stops where you can get food, you can get coffee, and keep walking. You don't know the people, but it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who you are. If you are in the peregrinación, you go, stop by, get some food, get some coffee, and keep walking. And you keep, and I think that's very traditional, small. Everywhere in Mexico City is hard, but in little towns, it's very, very common. You don't yeah.
The other thing that, you know, I want to share with the people who are watching this show is we were talking about corn, and, you know, we talk about the family connection and the community relation. There is also finances and politics involved in food. We said we were talking at the beginning about the white corn. I don't know, you know, if you guys remember when NAFTA was signed between Canada, Mexico, and the United States. There are several produce that are grown in Mexico that went into the NAFTA agreement, and one of them was corn. And what the United States does is they bring the white corn for ethanol, and then that made the tortilla a lot more expensive in Mexico. There was a big price jump. They also realized that because of the corn was more expensive, the indigenous were putting some actually lime rock in the tortilla to make more. So they are eating now, let's say, rocks. And they started noticing tooth decay because they were not putting that much corn in their tortillas. So that's super sad. And we don't realize how much politics sometimes have to do with this, but also the impact that we have in politics, but also in earth. How do you see that with the products that you buy here versus in Mexico? Do you see any impact on earth and the sustainability?
Yeah, for example, for me, I really think that in Mexico, we value the things from the earth. We eat everything from scratch, and you go to what they call here farmers market. That farmers market here is like a very fancy, trendy, super expensive thing. In Mexico too, you go to the tianguis and mercado that every week is in every single neighborhood, everywhere across the country, and you find your fresh produce, your fresh ingredients at a very, very low price. Here, I start to realize that quality is involved with money. If I want quality, if I want my ingredients from Mexico, I will need to pay for that. That is like I was telling my family that for one avocado here, an avocado that might be sick. In Mexico, you open an avocado, you slice it, you see a little black spot, it's sick to the garbage. And here you open the avocado and has 5 different spots. I want to remove them. You remove them and you use it because avocado here it might cost $1-3 in some times of the year. That in Mexico is completely insane to pay that money, but you need to get used to that. If you want to still try to recreate the flavors of your country and try to make your dishes with that, you will need to pay a higher cost. For me, it could be amazing if we pay those prices, but that money goes to the first source, that the first source are the people in the farms in Mexico, that they receive pennies for the job that they do. So if we were able to, all this huge income of the money that we spend in produce, take it there, for me, it can be a perfect solution, but I don't know if that will happen one day.
Yeah, I took the students from the college once to Mexico, to Sierra Gorda, and they show us a field of oranges, and they said they are going rotten because of NAFTA. Picking of the oranges is like, let's say, $1 per kilo. Let's say, I don't remember the amount. And the American juice companies want to pay us 50 cents. So it's more expensive for us to pick them up than to sell them. So we don't, and then they have to look in the United States for agricultural jobs to just, support their families. It's a very, very complex problem.
Yep, it's the same with the coffee in Veracruz. Mexico used to be one of the largest producers of coffee in the whole continent. And now with all these American roasters going to Mexico and buying our to Latam and buying our coffee beans, it's such a hard situation for Veracruz that now they are not producing coffee like the way that they used to do it maybe 10 years ago because it's not working. And that's really sad.
But you are right. You were talking about the cost. I remember one day going grocery shopping, and my cart had, I will say, maybe a quarter of the space with produce, fresh produce. And in front of me, there was a guy with the car overflown with pizza and mac and cheese.
Yep.
And he paid way more, way less than what I pay for my little bit of food.
Yes, but in that point, for me that I work in the food industry, I can tell you that there is solutions that are premium quality, that the industry is having an evolution and is understanding the source, is supporting the farmers, and is going in a better way to produce better food for us. So now it's still an evolution that will take time, but it's getting better. All the large scale production food is getting really healthy now, and ingredients that I promise you that are premium quality.
So could the three of us give us any advice or recommendation? Where can we get our produce? What would be the best option to help the farmers and stay healthy and be able to cook dishes like the ones you are showing us today?
Goodman's.
I think a good option is also doing the CS.
We lost you.
Even farmers markets, they're expensive, but believe me, the taste, the flavor is completely different. It's just like carrots. We bought carrots last time, and my husband was like, "Hey, where did you get these carrots? They taste different. The texture." I think supporting local farmers through CSA or farmers markets is totally worth it. Like, yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but it's local and it's supporting farmers and it's supporting the ecology environment as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just important to know where your food comes from. And, when I think about what I'm putting on the plate, it's just not necessarily what the final result looks like, but it starts with the ingredients. Where did those ingredients grow? Who grew them? And how did they get to my table? And then how I treat each ingredient with respect for that ingredient and what I can make with it, what I can convert it into. But it always starts with knowing where your food comes from. And I, as much as I can, just stay local. Granted, avocados are not local and they'll always be in my pantry. Same with plantains or coconuts. So I only try to get the things that obviously are not grown here, but anything else, I try to go local.
Yeah, it's healthy, and that's also better for the environment to keep buying everything local. What about if anyone that is listening to this program wants to contact you, where can they find you? Do you sell your food anywhere? Do you, if they are interested? Estrella, do you want to start?
So I have an Instagram account. I don't sell my food, but if you're around here and you're hungry, you come over to my place, just text me. So you can follow my account on Instagram.
Wait a minute.
When the pandemic started, like some friends were asking me for recipes, and I started a blog. Like I just have a couple of recipes. Honestly, I don't have time to do it, but I'm sharing some recipes over there. You can find my blog on my Instagram, and also I'm working in this project, the Farms to Families Fund. We have a YouTube channel that is called Farms to Families WI, like Wisconsin. And I just posted a video about how to make muffins, and hopefully we will publish more videos. But yes, I don't have a food business right now.
And I don't sell my food either, but I do sell my services as a personal chef. I'm on all social media. Instagram is probably the one I use the most. 5 Senses Palette, it's the name of my business. And that's where you would find me cooking and doing all sorts of different things food related. And sometimes not, but.
I don't sell my food in that way. Yes, I'm a full-time chef. And right now I was trying to check my Instagram because I don't use my social media pretty often. But if you want to contact me, in the website of the Facebook page for this event, there is my Instagram that sometimes I use. If not, you can send me an email to lesslinevc@gmail.com. So if you want to contact me in that way, it works too.
Great, that's excellent. We have a comment here from Nikki saying that the muffin recipe was amazing. Thank you, Nikki.
And I also write a food recipe monthly at the Capital City Hughes. So wherever you find that, you might find my recipes there, as well as my website.
Do you still have any connections with cooking in your country? Like when you go there, do you also have the opportunity to connect with more people beyond your families?
Yeah, like for example, for me, I keep a pretty close connection with the college that I went for. So if I can, I participate in some of the different programs that they have. And at the same time, because I went to culinary school in Mexico City and a lot of my closest friends are chefs, I try to keep connection with them, and we always have in plans different ideas to do together. So yes, even outside of my family, I always try to keep my culinary group from local things and in Mexico.
In my case, I stay most of the time with my family, but traveling to Mexico, eating the places I visit that are new to me, is the way I discover new flavors and experience more new meals.
I have actually connected with more Venezuelan chefs through Instagram than, when I've been living here for 20 years. So it's been a while. And when I was there, like being a chef and being a cook wasn't, like a thing. There wasn't even like a school that you could go to specifically, which I learned that there was a school created probably about 2 years after I was already living here. But I've connected with a lot of different chefs. They're very young. They're so creative and they're very inspirational. Like to try to continue to cook with the same ingredients, and also knowing the hardship that they're going through, the ones that are still in Venezuela, because, food is scarce there, and because of all the problems with government and access to everything. I just admire how resilient they are and how they're still putting food on the table at the restaurants or hotels where they work, and how they're still trying to help the community however they can. So yeah, I've connected with people mostly through social media. I don't know them personally, and I haven't been to Venezuela in 4 years now, but I hope when I go back that I can go and eat some of their food.
Yeah, for me, going to Mexico is just an amazing culinary experience. First, my mom is an amazing cook, but then I try to go to places to try new flavors. And I'm sure it's the same for Venezuela, that you have different flavors in the north, the center, the south. Every region of the country has very different flavors. Maybe corn is something that is common for the whole country.
Yeah, it only grows in a certain area of the country, but you can find it anywhere, and it's usually, there's like 19 different varietals, but you probably always find 2 or 3 that are the most popular ones, which I do not know the name of.
The same happens for avocado for us in Mexico, that you get the same type of avocado here, but in Mexico there are several varieties that you cannot find here.
Yeah, same.
Correct. It's like maybe 5 years ago, I discovered an avocado I never had ever tried that is called chenin, and actually was with my mother-in-law. She introduced me to that avocado. It's a long avocado. It's pale yellow, and it's super creamy. It has a huge seed. I never had it before, but that one is from Southeast Mexico.
And there is so many other avocados that we don't even have in Mexico. Like in Brazil, they have a type of avocado that they eat as a dessert. It's a sweet one. They really consume avocado as a fruit, and they sprinkle sugar on it. And for us in Mexico, avocado even is a fruit because of the bone. It's almost 100% savory.
Yeah, and we have those small avocados that super tiny that you go to the market and you eat even the skin.
Yeah, you eat
everything.
Yeah.
You eat the skin of those, and then you have the big ones and the ones that we eat here. I have noticed, and I won't probably say the name of the store, but these mega stores where you get the food, every time I got an avocado, when you open it, it has a lot of black spots, like Leslie was saying. But what I do, to be quite honest, is I go to one of the Latino stores.
Avocados.
And that's where I get my papayas and my avocados, because in the mega stores, they are always wrong. And I asked one day the guy, why? Why do you think that is?
I feel that maybe they don't give them the time, though. Like, for example, here if you buy local apples, the apples are top-notch. Why? Because they let them grow in the tree. They have the time for being mature and delicious. And for bringing them from Mexico or Latam, needs to take a lot of time to bring them here, so they cut them from the trees too soon, and the poor guys don't like
the treatment that they give them for them to survive on the tree. That's why it's better to eat local. Even we don't have that much variety, but as Leslie said, the apples are great in here. They're crispy. They have different varieties. The avocados, all the time it takes to bring them from Latin America or Mexico, all the noise consumption, all the pollution. Like, I love avocado. That's the thing. Like, honestly, I eat a lot of avocado.
It's the same with the bananas. The bananas, when I moved to America, I was like, the flavor is so weird. Even the bananas are from Latam. The flavor was completely different, even like a flavor added, but it's because they got the fruit so early that the flavor completely changed because of the time that they need to transport and everything.
And that's the one thing too that happens here quite a bit, is like food becomes a trend, because whether it's a healthy trend or whatever trend it is, and then all of a sudden everybody, like avocado, everybody's eating avocado, and the avocado toast is the thing. It's like we've been eating avocado since we were born. Like, so for us, it's not like a new thing or a trendy thing. It's just, like I always have avocados.
For that,
There's something wrong in my house.
we have chia. Chia, I always tell to all my colleagues about that. In Mexico, chia was like, because the kids tend to eat too much, the ladies used to add in the limón agua fresca chia for make that the kids drink a lot of agua de limón and then feel full and eat less food in the parish, because in the parish you need to feed like 50, 100 people. And chia was the most low and cheap ingredient that we can imagine, and here you come and it's super trendy, super food, and it's so expensive to buy it, when for us was just for fill the kids with agua de limon.
Right.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about cactus, but that's another ingredient that is incredibly healthy, and if you buy it in Mexico, it's very cheap.
Yes, we can sit here and talk about food the entire night, because there is a diverse world. It's another world. But yes, cactus is another thing. Nopales.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of very nutritious, high in fiber, and they have so many properties. In Mexico, they are super, super cheap. And here, I found them in a store, actually. They're pretty good, in a Mexican store.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I get mine. I want to mention we have sponsors for this program, so I really want to thank our sponsors: American Family, Impact for Social and Corporate Good, Meritor Unit Point, UW Health, Summit Credit Union, and Dane Arts have been some of our sponsors, and I really want to thank them. Do you guys have anything else to leave with our audience before we have to finish?
I guess thank you for watching us. I really enjoyed this conversation with all these beautiful ladies, and try to promote your food and the local ingredients.
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys. This was fun. And I can't wait until you can invite me to your next party.
We will come to our next party, we promise.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the invitation. And also, I would love to tell everybody here, every immigrant living in America, you should be proud of your food. Don't lose those traditions. And yes, try to adjust your flavors to the local ingredients. You will go good. And yes, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. And Estrella, you said we can text you to get some food. I might text you to get some of that pan de muerto.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much. Bye.